In a realm where our connections wield immense influence on us, accompany me as we unearth the wisdom that love endeavors to impart. The entrance to the beauty parlor swung open, welcoming Elizabeth, a modestly attired young lady. The receptionist squinted and rolled her eyes, displaying her disapproval of the newcomer. Unperturbed, Elizabeth approached the counter, causing the hairdresser to pause her phone call. "Do you happen to have an appointment?" she inquired, casting a glance at the schedule for the sake of formality. Few clients actually booked ahead of time, and the receptionist was well aware that this young woman, though lacking opulent attire, wasn't listed. "Could you manage without an appointment?" questioned the visitor, her gaze fixed on the lone unoccupied chair. "We only have a pair of hairdressers on duty today," retorted the receptionist, her irritation palpable. "As you can observe, everyone is occupied. If you have the time, you can wait until someone becomes available." Elizabeth noticed that one of the hairdressers had just finished working on a client. Evidently, her wait wouldn't be long, and her patience would mean that the next customer wouldn't have to wait as long. Resolving to wait, Elizabeth earned nothing more than a nonchalant shrug from the receptionist, who promptly returned to her phone, her self-satisfied smile still intact. Elizabeth proceeded to an inviting sofa and seated herself, catching yet another disgruntled expression from the receptionist. She feigned ignorance, even though such a demeanor left an unfavorable impression. Nonetheless, Elizabeth had no intention of declining the salon's services. Before long, a hairdresser concluded a session with another client. Swiftly, the receptionist sprang to her feet, beaming broadly, lavishing compliments on the lavishly dressed woman. The client settled her bill, left a substantial tip, and exited the establishment. Elizabeth cast an expectant glance at the hairdresser who had just finished tidying up her station. Oddly, this was typically the juncture where the receptionist would offer the waiting customer a seat, perhaps even help with removing her coat. However, 10 minutes elapsed, and the second hairdresser completed another client's styling, then retreated to the back office after the first. Glancing at her wristwatch, Elizabeth noted that she had deliberately chosen a time post-lunch. Yet, the working hours here seemed to adhere to their own rhythm. Another 10 minutes passed, and Elizabeth's patience waned. She ventured to ask when her turn would arrive. "Can't you see that we're on a break?" snapped the irritated receptionist. "Hairdressers are on their feet all day. They deserve a break as well. They'll finish their tea and then tend to you." With an exasperated sigh, the receptionist acted as though she had been disrupted from a crucial task, privately surmising that this patron might not be a perfect match for their establishment. It might have been prudent to present the pricing details, yet the woman opted not to trouble herself. She wondered how the visitor would manage if she lacked sufficient funds to cover the haircut. The receptionist periodically cast discreet glances in the waiting woman's direction. Young and minimally made up, her hair slightly disheveled, wearing unbranded attire. A more refined appearance, with a touch of makeup and slightly improved attire, might yield a different reception. The waiting period began to grate on Elizabeth's nerves. Her attention was drawn to the coffee machine, and she contemplated seizing the chance to enjoy a warm beverage, given the hairdressers were on break. In reputable establishments, it was typically the manager's role to extend such offers to patrons, but this locale seemed to defy convention. With disposable cups available, it appeared these were meant for visitors. A young woman made her way to the machine, only to be halted by the receptionist's sharp rebuke. The receptionist clarified that coffee was reserved for regular clientele, and took the opportunity to grumble about the perceived lack of manners displayed by certain women who acted as if they were in their own homes. Elizabeth simply shrugged and resumed her place on the couch. At least sitting wasn't forbidden, she mused. The salon certainly exuded an air of sophistication, but the staff's treatment of her was undeniably demeaning. Shortly thereafter, a woman adorned in ostentatious gold jewelry and a fur coat entered the establishment. The receptionist greeted her with a warm smile, rising from her seat. Elizabeth's heart sank. Must one really wear a fur coat crafted from slain animals and a kilogram of gold to warrant respectful treatment? Elizabeth half expected this newcomer to join the waiting game. However, as if on cue, the two hairdressers emerged promptly from the back room and promptly ushered the lady into a seat. Elizabeth contemplated voicing her inquiry about her own turn when a third hairdresser emerged. In a raspy voice, the hairdresser asked if someone was there for her. The receptionist carelessly gestured towards Elizabeth. The hairdresser seemed flustered and awkward, occasionally tugging at Elizabeth's hair as she worked, yet quickly apologizing. Elizabeth resolved to engage the woman in conversation, inquiring about her experience working at the salon. The response she received was a litany of complaints, a scarcity of decent clientele, paltry wages, and a wardrobe confined to discounted brands and outdated collections. Elizabeth ventured that not everyone could afford designer labels, but her comment was met with a derisive laugh. "Such a mindset belongs to beggars," the hairdresser quipped, suggesting that those unable to meet societal norms of living shouldn't expect admiration. Stunned, Elizabeth fell silent, uncomfortable being directly labeled a beggar. The hairdresser, caught up in the conversation, proceeded to recount instances of duping inexperienced customers into paying exorbitantly for various procedures and products, an approach that sometimes led to multifold price hikes. "But wouldn't you risk losing a customer that way?" Elizabeth pondered aloud. "There isn't much to lose. I don't feel sympathy for them," the hairdresser chuckled. Curious, Elizabeth inquired who, in the hairdresser's opinion, constituted a good customer. "Well, someone like the lady over there," the hairdresser whispered, nodding toward the adjacent chair. As Elizabeth observed in the mirror, the two hairdressers lavished meticulous attention on the second client, as if tending to a rare and delicate artifact. The stylist inadvertently pulled Elizabeth's hair once again. "Pardon me, my hands are a touch unsteady. I was out late at a bar with a friend last night. Hadn't seen her in ages," she explained. "In any case, you wouldn't have enough for a top-tier stylist." Elizabeth's gaze remained fixed in the mirror, the reflections of conversations and attitudes intertwining, revealing the intricate tapestry of perspectives and societal norms. "You would wait for another half hour until another hairdresser becomes available. They have their own set of clients." Elizabeth was taken aback by the hairdresser's revelation. Seeing her client's confusion, the stylist hastened to explain that she was, in fact, a skilled specialist, but today was just an off day. Meanwhile, the entrance swung open, and a man stepped in. His attire was unassuming, yet the entire staff sprang into action. The receptionist hastily ended her call, leapt to her feet, and greeted him with an expansive smile. The stylists around the affluent client moved even more briskly. Elizabeth's hairdresser ceased speaking and delicately resumed brushing her hair. The man engaged the receptionist in conversation, prompting the stylist to whisper to Elizabeth that the man was, in fact, the owner. The owner's gaze swept around the room in bewilderment. Upon spotting Elizabeth, his expression softened, and he addressed her with warmth. "How do you find it here, my dear?" Silence enveloped the beauty parlor. Every employee's eyes widened, and Elizabeth's stylist, it appeared, nearly experienced a heart palpitation. She turned pale, her gaze fixed on her client in the mirror. Swiftly, a flood of apologies followed, accompanied by assurances that the young woman was being attended to by the salon's premier hairdressers. As it turned out, Elizabeth was the owner's daughter. Her father was embarking on an extended journey abroad and had decided to entrust the business to his daughter. While she had no prior experience in such a field, she took her father's charge earnestly. Before fully assuming this responsibility, she sought to comprehend the salon's operations from within. Her endeavor wasn't in vain, as she was deeply disconcerted by the subpar treatment meted out by the salon's attendants to their clientele. The establishment wasn't budget-oriented, substantial wages were offered, and all customers were entitled to coffee. The blatant disregard for customers, with salon employees sipping tea as clients awaited their turn, was patently unacceptable. Elizabeth took the reins of the salon, instigating considerable changes. Foremost was the transformation in how each customer was treated. She introduced special discounts for seniors and students and initiated complimentary haircuts for those less fortunate. The manager promptly resigned, leading to an overhaul of the hairdresser staff. However, the salon's popularity surged, and the client count soared. Yet, the most pivotal transformation was the change in attitude. No longer did the salon extend its hospitality only to those donning inexpensive fur coats. Individuals in any attire were now welcomed wholeheartedly. I trust you found pleasure in experiencing my narrative. Sharing it with you has been a delight. Should you have enjoyed it, kindly engage the like button and consider subscribing to my channel for forthcoming tales. Gratitude for your viewership, and until our next encounter.